So we begin our study of British literature. British literature encompasses literature from England, but also the UK in general, so Scotland, Ireland, etc. We will start our history of British literature with the Anglo-Saxons, beginning around the 500s, but the history of England goes back before that. There are a variety of people groups in early England, but some of the more famous ones were the Britons, also known as the Celts. And as you can see, they occupied mostly this area. So the Romans actually came in and conquered England, as you may remember from history class. The early British people were very warlike, and the Romans had a hard time conquering them. The Romans subdued maybe half of England, and eventually they just built a wall, the most famous one being Hadrian's Wall, which there are still remnants of it today. But anyway, they built it to try to keep the warlike, unsubdued people out of their area that they had subdued. But as you remember, the Roman Empire eventually fell, and as they withdrew, and they fell to Roman tribes, there being 10 predominant Roman tribes that were coming out of Germany in the north. One of these tribes was the Anglo-Saxons. So the Anglo-Saxons were migrating down from the north, and different tribes went different places, but the Anglo-Saxons, part of their group invaded England and pushed the Celts and the Britons and the Picts kind of out of what had been their homeland. The Anglo-Saxons came out of Germany and Denmark, and as you can see here, they came from Jutland, which is in present-day Denmark, and this area, which is part of Germany. I can't remember if these guys were part of the Anglo-Saxons or not, but that would be in what would be, like, I believe it's what is Holland today. The first piece of literature that we're going to study is Beowulf, an Anglo-Saxon tale. And as we study this, there are a few key terms and ideas that we want to keep in mind. First of all, we want to think about the role of tropes in the Anglo-Saxon culture. We also want to look at a few literary devices used by Germanic tribes, one of which would be alliteration, as we will experience in many other types of poetry as well. But we also want to look at kennings. A couple of like questions that we want to ask ourselves are, what is a hero? And what is evil? And when we're faced with evil, what should our response be? Okay, I'm pretty sure that most of you know what alliteration is, but it has been a long summer break. So alliteration is the repetition of a consonant sound at the beginning of a word, right? For example, Peter, the first consonant sound is Peter, the first consonant sound is P, and so Peter and Paul would have the same first consonant sound. So Peter and Paul would have alliteration. So would jumping Jacob, or Sally sells seashells down at the seashore. Alright, so Shopes, it looks like Scops, but I believe that it is pronounced Shopes. Shopes were singing storytellers. And so the Anglo-Saxon culture did not have writing for quite a while. And so the way that they passed down tales and celebrated different virtues in their society and taught people were through stories. And so Shope's their role was telling stories, and I believe that they also sang songs and stuff. And so Beowulf actually for centuries was passed down orally, and then at some point it was actually written down, and then it Anglo-Saxons were originally pagans, but eventually they became converted to Christianity, and then monks in the Dark Ages, when there wasn't a whole lot of learning going on, what they were good at is retaining knowledge through the copying of stories and different literature, different texts that they had, and so they would just copy these things. And so Beowulf was written down at one point and collected in, I believe it's called the Exeter Book, and then I think that the Exeter Book, it was only discovered within the past, I want to say, 200 years, and it has some burns on it, like it looks like, or maybe it's like mug stains. Somebody put a mug on it, used it as kind of a cup holder. I want to say that it might have some burn marks on it. But anyway, yeah, this it was finally rediscovered, and I want to say it's one of the only copies of Beowulf that survived. And then, of course, now it's passed around on the internet. Okay, we're going to spend a couple of minutes writing at this point. I already asked you the 3 questions, but we're going to write on that right now. So first of all, I want you to think about and then write on the question of what is a hero. Okay, so I want you to write on this for about 3 minutes. So pause the video now and go ahead and write. Okay, the second question that you're going to write on is, what is evil? So you're going to spend, again, about 3 minutes thinking about this and then writing about it. What is evil? Go ahead and pause the video now and spend 3 minutes thinking and writing about this. Okay, we have one more question. When you finish this question, I want you to go to Moodle, and there's some research that I want you to do on the Anglo-Saxon Protestants. I'm sorry, just Anglo-Saxons. I want you to do the research, follow the instructions on there. But before you do that, we have one more question that I want you to think about and write about for approximately 3 minutes. That question is, when confronted with evil, what should we do? Go ahead and pause the video and write about that for 3 minutes.